Hello, my friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, it's my first English interview I'm doing with my friend Rebecca from the YouTube channel Vibe Mentor. She helps people work through their limitations, raise their vibration, and step into their life purpose to end the dark night of the soul and come out of it alive. Rebecca, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jolene. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you. I'm excited. We've looked forward to this for a while, so happy to be here. Beautiful.
All right, Rebecca. I know one thing you talk about a lot is about traumas and how it affects people of their self-worth, and if they think they're deserving or if they are worthy of money and stepping into the best life they can live. So would you like to tell us a little bit about why do we have problems with our self-worth?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you lead with this question. It really is what I'm finding in my work to be the biggest issue on a global level. And I started out, as most of us do, with, having my own cognitive plan that I thought that, this was the path I was going to go down, and really the divine always seems to deliver some exciting twists and turns. And so while my intention it was to, or still is, to help people step into their life purpose, what has really come out of the work is more so an understanding around why do we struggle with our self-worth, and come to find out through many, many sessions of beautiful divine beings, there is a tremendously strong theme of unworthiness that plagues the vast majority of people on planet Earth. And what we find is that there are no statistics to identify exactly how many people struggle with unworthiness, but one statistic that does sort of indicate a percentage that we might come close to, and that is attachment styles, that many of us have sort of dysfunctional attachment styles. Only 54% of the population is capable of healthy attachment, and that is only at certain points in time. And so that what that means is essentially they can oscillate in and out of healthy attachment. And so that tells us that at least 50% of the population is dealing with these challenges around having healthy relationships or being able to assert their self-worth and understanding that they're valuable. And if the interesting part of that was how it kind of came together, that our self-worth is directly connected to our abundance and our ability to ask for what we're worth. And so then the bigger question becomes, where did this come from? Why do we struggle with this? And that is, of course, going back to childhood. You sit down with any therapist and they want to hear about your childhood. And I do take a different approach on this. This is not about blaming our parents. It's not about handing away our power, but rather just sort of understanding the messages that were received. So in those 0 to 7 years, we were in our programming state. We were in a theta or even alpha state of mind. And so we were receiving the program that was going to be housed in our limbic brain. And when we receive the message of I'm not seen, heard, valued, cared for, loved, or safe from our parents or caregivers, or sometimes it can even happen later in life when we have toxic relationships. But essentially, that sends a subconscious message that there's something wrong with you and there's something wrong with your needs. And so the brain's job is to keep us safe. And so what it does is it identifies you as the source of the problem, and it says something about who you are and what you need is wrong and bad. And so we learn to stuff our emotions, and we learn to numb out and ignore who we are and what we need. And this actually is where some of our hypersensitivity comes from, and how we become even more empathic. Likely we were born with these things, but they were amplified because we had to become hypervigilant in understanding our environment and understanding who's in this environment and how do I make them happy, right? And so we kind of become chameleons, and that's a beautiful gift when we're able to use it consciously and understand how it might hold us back. But it also is part of what keeps us from understanding our self-worth, because we have hidden who we authentically are. We formed a belief around the fact that who we are is somehow bad or wrong. We fracture off who we are, and we reject part of ourselves, or we lose, or we forget who we are or what we need. And it's a shame, because if we and when we start educating kids around who they are and what their gifts are and what they're worth early on, they will thrive and the world will be a much better place. But where we're at right now is in sort of a building the car while we drive it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to heal the trauma as well as educate our children on what their value and worth is. And so this trauma acts as sort of a glass ceiling, right? It becomes the voice of trauma that sits on our shoulder and says, "Who are you to want to make $1 million? Who are you to want to heal the world? Who are you?"
It doesn't even have to be that big, right? I mean, it could be
No,
something
yeah,
like, who are you to think you deserve love? Or who are you
right.
to deserve to be seen or heard? Or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you put yourself out there or if you allow yourself to be seen, they will reject you. They won't like you. You know, you don't have a message. You're not important or special. You don't have a life purpose, right? This voice just goes on
Yeah.
and on. And it's really in the micro moments of life. And we end up overgiving and we want to we overgive because we're looking for validation of our self-worth, and it's amazing how I think I'd take up all of our time if I explained all the different ways that this shows up. And there's a list of 48 factors, and when you read those 48 ways that it shows up in our lives, every single person ends up saying, "Holy cow, I can't believe that this is the filter that my entire life is run through." And so
Yeah.
it can seem daunting when you hear all of that, and yet at the same time, it is very exciting because finally
Hmm.
we can understand what is holding us back and what is keeping all of these beautiful light workers from stepping into their purpose and what is keeping us in the dark night of the soul, right? So now that we understand, we can move through it and finally bring about heaven on earth.
Mm. Oh, I felt that deeply. Yeah. I came to my own realization. Oh, what's that accent? I came to a realization about how, as long as you place your own self-worth on anything outside of you, doesn't matter what it is. If it's a job, if it's a degree, if it's your partner, if it's your looks or your fitness or your car, or whatever, or even your knowledge or how spiritual you are, or whatever. As long
Mhm.
as you place your worth on that, you're living in hell. You're
Yes.
living in hell because it could be gone like that. You always have to take a lot of effort and energy to obtain it. And honestly, it's fake. You're always at the mercy of something outside of yourself. And you're running and running in the need to just fulfill this whole and just let me be holy, just let me be worthy, just let me be whole. And it always needs something outside of yourself. And I can tell you how long I've lived in that kind of mindset, and how long I haven't even been aware of it. So I mean, a lot of people, I guess, if you tell them, unworthiness is such a huge topic in this world right now, they will say, no, I don't feel that way, because they're denying it maybe, but because they're not even aware of it,
Yeah.
that's taking place. That's the thing, while they're running around and chasing for likes or for validation, or I just need to have a partner so I can feel whole. And not to judge anyone or blame, or as you said, not blaming the parents, but it's a hell you need to get aware of, to get out of it, and to realize, oh, I've been in this hell, and oh, my lights. We gotta roll with it. Yeah, so that's really touching what you said about bringing heaven to earth. That needs to get out. For that, we have to get out of our own hell first.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true that we don't realize it. I think what's coming to mind for me is maybe food as an example. If
Mhm.
you eat fast food every day, you don't really notice the tax that it plays on your life or the energetic price that you pay. But when you stop and you eat healthy food, or you give up soda or you give up some sort of vice, all of a sudden on the other side of it, you go, "Wow, I did not realize how much that was impacting me and
Yeah.
how much energy we have to put into constantly proving I'm valuable, I'm worthy," right? And the ego, it is trying to keep us safe by proving our value and worth. And yet at the same time, it's such an unsustainable foundation that it can crumble, like you said, at any moment that could be taken away from you. And I agree, that was one of the biggest aha moments for me, was finally, this cannot be taken away from me. That who
Yeah.
I am inherently is perfect as it is, perfectly imperfect for my purpose. My absolute favorite saying,
Yeah.
Every ounce of you was designed to be of service and to give and to help bring about heaven on earth. And even those rejected parts of us, my sensitivity was a liability when I was young, and now it's one of the greatest gifts in helping people. And so all those parts that we rejected or tried to prove or tried to cover up, that they all have space, and it feels so good to be whole again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And finally not push against anything from yourself anymore. Don't fight the war within.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No more
That
resistance.
yeah, that keeps us suffering basically.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
how do people get out of it? Like it sounds so easy. Just realize you're worthy no matter what. You're perfect the way you are, built for
Yeah.
your purpose. But
Yeah.
if you're deep in that pain of self-rejection and self-hate, denial, abandonment, how do you get there? What do you suggest people? How to
That's a
start?
really great question. It's challenging. So I have a personal interest in psychology and am self-taught. I had a therapist tell me I had a personal master's in psychology. So I might bring this up, bear with me, but it's important to understand that the brain, we can consciously know things, and when we consciously know them, that means it's in the prefrontal cortex. It's in the executive functioning part of the brain, and that's a great place to start, but it's not enough. That we can know something and we can understand I'm supposed to love myself, I'm supposed to let go of resistance, I'm supposed to believe in my worth, and yet we haven't ingrained it. We're not embodying
Yeah.
it and we don't believe it. So that would tell us that it's up here instead of being back here.
Mhm.
So the limbic part of the brain is the oldest part of the brain. It's also called the reptilian brain
Yeah.
sometimes. It is the stem of the brain that essentially houses the programs, the subconscious programs, right? So that is those first 0 to 7 years. That's the program, and it was kind of inserted in there like a floppy disk, and it needs to be taken out, right? And so as long as we understand it here, but it's still here, we're still going to struggle with that. And I think one of the biggest challenges for people is when you hear the term subconscious, you feel helpless, right? We don't know how to get it out of the subconscious. And so that can be really tricky. Certainly, hypnosis can work, affirmations can work, anything that's repetitive. And I often like to use the example of marketing and media around us. So look at how our environment has programmed us to believe that we need these external things. We're going to need to do the same thing, but for the good,
Yeah.
right?
Constant repetition, right?
Constant repetition, constant exposure in many different ways. So
Mhm.
visual, auditory, right? I love your own voice can be very powerful if you create a recording with all of the affirmations that you need. That can be helpful.
Mhm.
One of the bigger challenges is when it comes to complex trauma, you're going to need someone else to help you with it, whether it's me or a therapist or Jolene or anybody who can really be that positive mirror.
Yeah.
So when we look back at our childhood, we had these people who were reflecting something to us. Maybe they were abusive or maybe they were just absent, but that was a mirror that said, this is my value and worth. And
Yeah.
so we can now shift the perspective and see those people who don't reflect positive value as an inaccurate mirror. It's kind of like being in a hall of mirrors
Yeah.
and
They're
they told
mirroring the
you
oh sorry, they're mirroring the default programming, basically, not the truth.
of their own,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, what's in
Mhm.
them instead of what's in you.
Yeah.
And so when you have a healthy mirror, you've got someone to reflect something positive to you. So that's part of it. You also need that other person to be trained to be able to help you spot the patterns, right? So we kind of trace back to childhood and what was the message that you internalized by the behavior of these people towards you.
Mhm.
And then I highly suggest something called brain spotting. Essentially, we use a wand, we find the spot that the eyes are indicating to the therapist is accessing the point of the brain that is housing that memory.
Mhm.
And so we combine that reprogramming of the subconscious with somatic work. So the trauma is housed in the subconscious brain as well as in the body. And so you'll need a kind of a combination of accessing the memory, which the brain does not want to allow you to do. So you'll definitely need help with that, as well as pulling it out of the body. And I like to use the analogy of moving through life with glass shards in your body. So every trigger, every time you feel a exaggerated response to some external stimuli, that is an indication that there is a trigger there and that's
Yeah.
attached to a trauma. And so when we have these traumas in our body, it's like these glass shards that we're trying to leave in there and figure out how do we navigate life and how do we move through life avoiding our triggers so that we don't agitate these glass shards, so that they don't cut our organs open or hurt us anymore. And so we've got these kind of blinders. Don't look, don't face that pain, right? And yet feeling it is necessary to heal it. So I realize that's a complex answer. There's a lot of different facets to it, but it's important to understand that it's possible.
Yes, 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 yes. And before we move on to the next question, I would just like to add something beautifully explained. I think if we are at the point, we have to realize it's not the option to leave it in there. Essentially, we have to get it out. Otherwise, the whole life will always be trigger, trauma response, reacting instead of responding, and so it will all be like unconscious again and automatic. So we have to, as you said, with a person we can trust, find the trigger, face it, feel it, discover the story that's attached to it, and then move past this so that we put them all out and live healthy and happy and free again and conscious and not on program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the conscious awareness comes in, right? That when we finally identify it and we understand the story we've told ourselves about it, we've gotten it out of the body, then we can become aware of how it plays out in our life, right? So if this belief that I'm not enough comes from our parents, then you'll never be enough in your life purpose. You'll never be enough in your job. You'll never be enough in your relationship. And so to be aware of how we try to compensate, right? And if I may add something, might seem a little off topic, but it's really critical in understanding what it does to leave the resistance or leave the trauma in our body. And that is that we're like giant crystals, that a crystal is actually made out of silica and calcium. And if you look at our bodies, our cells are lined with silica, and our connective tissue that connects our calcium bones is silica. So we are conduits of energy. We are designed to call down divine source creative energy, to co-create by calling it down and moving it through and being of service to contribute with that energy. But if you look at our bodies, we are also electromagnetic beings. And if you look at the example of an electrical wire, if there is any resistance in that electrical wire, the energy cannot flow through. And so that trauma is the resistance in our body, right? That those glass shards will keep you from not only everything you've ever dreamed, but from the connection that you seek, from the love and the peace of mind and the fulfillment and the joy and the bliss. And so it may seem a little scary, like, oh, I really don't want to do this. In fact, we've spent our whole lives avoiding looking at this pain, and yet it is so easy to move through once you've made the commitment to do it, right? And then the reward is huge on the other side. So
yeah, it's worth it, definitely. And that perfectly leads us into the next question, which is, on the one side, we already talked about it, bringing heaven on earth. Like, I think people who heard the call, who are on the awakening journey, they somewhere along the lines got the message, oh, we're here to build a new earth. That's real. That's happening through shifting consciousness and going through the dark and bringing the light and anchoring more light and of who we truly are, not just the programs. So how this ties together, how do we bring on heaven on her earth, in your opinion? And how does our personal purpose tie into that? So if you would like to expand on that topic a little bit, how those two go together.
Yeah, great question again.
Thank you. Great answers.
You're very good at tying this together, and these are all the logical steps essentially that we have to think through. So we oftentimes as spiritual beings choose these difficult paths, right? We choose the family, the home, the trauma, the healing path, the dark night of the soul that is going to bring us to this place of awakening. And it's a bumpy ride for some of us. Some of us are lucky to, just wake up one day and I'm awake. Others of us had to go through a dark night of the soul and a couple of narcissistic relationships and maybe even another dark night of the soul, but it all serves a purpose to bring us to this place of understanding that nothing we thought was true is true, right? That it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, that we have these external programs teaching us that our value has to come from something outside of us. And so when we start the spiritual awakening, or when we fall into a dark night of the soul, it's because our soul is sick. That we have come to a place where there is just no more denying the fact that this is not working,
Yeah.
that I'm not getting what I need, and I have an insatiable thirst, right? This thirst I cannot quench, and I'm seeking something, but I can't find it, and I don't know what it is, and I
Yeah.
feel trapped, and I feel like I can't get out, right? This prison of I'll never escape this pain. This is the life that
Ah.
I'm destined to live. Like, it just doesn't make sense. There's something not right about this,
Yeah.
right? And so what it is it's that soul urge, the soul sickness that is begging you to wake up to your purpose, right? Again, you are perfectly designed for your purpose. And I think there can be a lot of confusion around being a light worker or having a life purpose, that we sometimes feel like I have to do Reiki, or I have to do card readings, or I have to be a healer. And those things are all beautiful, beautiful, amazing. In no way disrespecting that, but I want to open people's eyes to the fact that there are more options.
Mm-hmm.
And likely they are not written on paper, and there's probably not a program to educate you around your life purpose. That it is a process of alchemy or soup, where we are
Super.
combining all of the different factors of who we are, that it's going to create something so unique and special to you,
Yeah.
that only you can find that path, because only you have access to the guidance system, the full body yes that says this is the path, go down here. And
Yeah.
it's just a whisper, and it's just one step at a time,
Yeah.
right? And that if I'll use myself as an example, if you were in product development, and it was a corporate path that sucked the life out of you, it doesn't mean that all of that is bad and wrong, that there was a piece of that experience that's going to be combined with your natural skills and your abilities. And so understanding who you are, right? The study of self is very, very critically important. And I think there are two really big factors that people can start with just here today is what brings you joy and what do you need, right? That your needs are valid. Your needs absolutely have to be met for you to thrive and to raise your vibration and to be at the highest level of functioning, so that you can shine your light bright enough to bring about heaven on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we each light up and we each step into our life purpose, that's what's going to raise the collective vibration. And people who are on this path may be designed to be an architect to build the buildings of the future. We need cleaner air, we need more light, we need biophilic design in our architecture, right? So you may not be destined to be a card reader. Maybe you're supposed to be a spiritual architect,
Mm-hmm.
right? We may need educators and teachers who are going to study psychology and get those degrees, but also teach in a school where we're going to teach kids how to identify their gifts and their purpose early on, right? That these new careers of the 21st future, which was a term that was thrown around a long time ago, could never be identified or defined, because we're defining them as we go,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what you can do today is to start to understand what brings you joy, what turns you on, what lights you up, and what, how do you meet your needs. And so that's going to be the quickest way to start stepping into it. And again, healing is going to have to come
Yeah.
before a lot of that, because you will kind of hit that glass ceiling of trauma that won't let you step into it. Because stepping into your life purpose is like ascension on steroids. It requires you to ask for what you're worth. It requires you to show up and
Yeah.
be seen. It requires you to shine your light. And it requires you to embrace the fact that we live and chose to come, to this world, and we live in a world that is built on money right now. And so to be able to build these new structures and systems and the necessary foundation for a new earth is going to require us embracing abundance and finances, and being proper stewards of the world's resources. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Perfect. I love that you mentioned that it's not limited to that jobs or professions that we call spiritual.
right.
Not at all. It really depends on who you are and what you came here for, what you came here to do, actually. And
Yeah.
that can be so different. So never comparing yourself with anyone, and really embracing the unknown of
Yeah.
saying, I have no idea who I am. I have no idea what I came here for. I don't know what I'm good at. I remember when I was at that point, I was like, I don't know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
what purpose?
Mm.
But as you said, it's following this. Oh, first of all, let yourself be shattered open by that dark night of the soul. Like, really, really, it just reflects you that life that you built around yourself was not who you truly are. It's just a reflection of that old programming and therefore doesn't fulfill you, right?
Yes.
So first of all, let it shatter you open, let it
Mhm.
shake you awake. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, then there's a lot of facing the demons, a lot of facing the pain, a lot of facing the illusions and lies that we keep telling ourselves, or maybe others tell us as well. But then the light comes through as we kind of embrace the darkness and stand in the pain and really let it teach us. Then the light comes through, and then, as you said, this little, oh, there's some joy, oh, there's some joy. It doesn't make sense right now, but I follow it. And I remember for myself, it was this huge fear of, I don't know what my path is, nobody can tell me, so how do I trust it? It's really the unfolding in front of you, and it can make you nervous, it can like make you doubt. But if you follow it, you learn you can actually trust it, and it will lead you where you need to be, and it will always guide you to more pieces of yourself.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think it was Rumi that said, the light enters through the cracks, right?
Mm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
what comes to mind when you say just be willing to be shattered
Yeah.
and know that in that shattering, the light is entering, right? The healing, the joy that you seek, the peace of mind, right?
Mm.
The the ticket, the train ticket out of this life that isn't serving you is being handed to you. And so what we tell ourselves, the story we tell ourselves is a big piece of this. If we tell ourselves, I'm losing everything, my life is falling apart, I'm a nobody, right? The depression that comes with the dark night of the soul has a lot to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. And we can shift that perspective by saying the light is entering me. I am
Mm.
regaining who I am. I'm
Mm.
being given the gift of a life with purpose,
Mm.
right? And
Beautiful.
just, yeah, trusting yourself, like you said. And that's so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because we don't trust ourselves. And we really do have a lot to trust within ourselves and the divine, knowing that you're supported and you will
Mm.
never be alone. You will never be abandoned. The birds don't struggle for food. The trees don't have to look for water. And you will be cared for, and trusting and having faith in that guidance system that will show you the next piece of joy to lead you on your path.
Yeah, and nobody can give you the trust, like just, oh, trust it. You have to walk the path, and
Yeah.
then it grows. Like then you basically realize I can trust because basically I trust myself. There are so many huge, beautiful revelations that lie along this path, but you have to be willing to walk it. And it can look so different for everybody. Everybody starts off with something different, and it will lead you, maybe not where it led you or me, but exactly there where you need to be.
Yeah.
And so, kind of to move on with the topic a little bit, if it's fine for you.
Yeah.
You said, if we do that, if we heal, if we step into our self-worth, into our purpose, and also bring heaven on earth, we
Mhm.
raise the collective vibration. And I know you, as the vibe mentor, are all a lot about how ways to raise your vibration. So I would like if you talk a little bit more about that. What can people accept following their joy? What ways tangibly would there be to raise your vibration?
Yeah. This is interesting. What comes to mind is something that sort of came in yesterday in a different way, was around doing less. And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost a paring back instead of a doing more.
Mm-hmm.
That the things that oftentimes, if anyone's anything like me, I feel like I have to have a to-do list and I have to do more things. And anytime I want to start a new business, I'm just piling more things on. I just keep adding on. I have to eat right and I have to exercise and get up early
Yeah.
and meditate and da 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 da, right? And so it actually is not more doing but less,
Mm-hmm.
right? That there's a paring back, that there is surrender into what is, and allowing and opening into our feminine nature, and balancing that masculine and feminine, and not so much doing. And in fact, the doing becomes more of that resistance in our electrical wire, right? That the being is the receiving of the gifts that are trying to come to you, that you are actually blocking in all of the doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you said you have to commit to the path, because it really is just a choice, right?
Yeah.
I choose in this moment, and you can say it out loud. I choose to find my purpose. I choose to commit to bringing about heaven on earth. I choose to surrender these old stories and this belief that things are falling apart instead of falling into place. And again, following your joy, following your bliss,
Yeah.
right, is a huge part of raising your vibration. And valuing doing nothing as equally as important as doing something,
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah. I
right? That
see.
we, in those quiet moments where we're regenerated and we're getting the guidance and we're being nurtured and fed by the divine, that has to be as equally as important as all of the to-do lists that we may create for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will add a caveat to that, because I often experience people who are sort of perpetually in healing mode or perpetually in hermit mode, and that is not necessarily the right place to be either. That there is a balance. We live in a dualistic world, so
Yeah.
there's always going to be that balance of action and guidance. And so I like to recommend action, guidance, action, guidance, action,
Mm-hmm.
guidance, right? So tap in and ask, what should I do now? And then take that action and ask again, what should I do now? And take that action. And most likely those are going to be things that are leading you towards your path. And so that's going to help to raise your vibration. You're going to get that reassurance and that guidance of, oh yeah, I'm guided. Oh yeah, I'm cared for. Right. And in the surrender, as we allow ourselves to be nurtured and cared for, we release the weights of the world. We release the pressure of having to do everything and fix everything. And
Yeah.
then I would also add connection. Connection is a huge piece of this. That, again, when we're perpetually in hermit mode or healing mode, we've isolated for a long period of time. And bringing in the psychology again, the brain actually is designed for connection. That the brain has a biological need for this chemical cocktail that is created when we have intimate connections with each other. And so that's not necessarily romantic. I would say, Jolene, you and I probably have a pretty intimate connection where we feel safe with each other, right? And so when we connect, we have that, oh, this feels really good feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That raise in vibration, the tingling, the
Yeah.
lightness, right? And so that is something that the brain cannot survive without. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
we end up with opioid addictions because people are so isolated. That is the very drug. In fact, so powerful, the chemical cocktail that is created naturally in our bodies when we have these intimate connections, that it's the equivalent of Oxycontin, which is one of the most dangerous street drugs in the United States. And so it just goes to show you how powerful this is and how we are built for that, and that the brain literally will starve without it. And I'm feeling it right now as I'm sharing it with you. And so this is how we build heaven on earth. Because
Yeah.
as we come together and we collaborate and we connect with each other, the frequency and the vibration just goes so through the roof. You almost feel lightheaded and dizzy. It's like, whoa, this is amazing, right? And so it's part of it, right? This is the vibration raising. I would say the best technique for vibration raising is it's connection and collaboration and building things together. We're built for creation.
Mm-hmm.
Manifesting all the time, whether we realize it or not. So we're constantly creating earth, whether it's heaven on earth or not, right? And so as we start to understand our manifestation mechanism, then we can consciously create instead of misfiring and recreating more of the past and the things we don't want.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
so just to summarize it, so it's first of all, being aware that you always manifest. Do things that make you feel good. Fulfill your needs. Know that you're back to self-worth. Know that you're worthy. That you're worthy to fulfill your needs. That you're worthy that others help you fulfill your needs. Do things that bring you joy. Connect with like-minded people. Go into nature. Follow your bliss, basically.
Yeah.
And also, as you said, creating can help. Like like bring projects to life that you can put your passion and that make you forget time. That's one thing that still came to mind here. Yeah, perfect. Okay, just
Yeah,
a little.
thank you for recapping because you made me think of two others I should definitely include. And one would be nutrition. Nutrition is
Mm-hmm.
huge,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we're eating light, we're going to feel lighter, right? And so think of, photosynthesis and vegetables and fruits and how they synthesize light into food and nutrients. And so put light into your body. If you're eating dead food or dried food, that is not going to lift your body
Yeah.
quite as much. And so that can be a really huge piece, especially with anybody who's dealing with depression. The microbiome is very directly connected to the chemistry in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, leads me to the second point, which might be one of the most important, and I'm sorry I missed it, is your thought process, right? Your
Yeah.
beliefs. All of this is the foundation of your manifestation mechanism. So I'll try to distill something that's pretty scientific into pretty easy to understand language, but essentially our beliefs, right? Our limbic brain are the foundation of our thoughts. So the thoughts we choose create the chemistry in our body. The chemistry in our body creates how we feel. Our feelings and our emotions are literally a vibration or a frequency, right? So emotion is energy in motion. And so the thoughts we choose, the brain has to match in chemistry the thoughts we have chosen. So if we're choosing to believe that my life is falling apart and I have no worth and value, then you're going to be flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, and you're not going to feel very good, and then you're not going to say nice things, and you're not going to have good actions, right? And so that is the manifestation mechanism, right? Your thoughts, your chemistry, your emotions, your feelings, your vibration, your attraction point.
Your
And so
energy. All summed
yes.
up as your energy, basically. Then.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. That is your emanation, right? And so as
Mm-hmm.
within, so without, and that's the life that you're going to experience. So really getting conscious around what thoughts am I choosing, and that it is a choice that
Mm-hmm.
neurobiologically we have dendrites in the brain that become very strong the more often we think a thought. So you may have a lifelong negative thought habit. It does not mean anything about you. That is just biology in your brain, and that literally can be dissolved and turned into hot air as you stop using that thought process and you start to create new ones. And creating new ones does take time. It can take up to 90 days just to get a tiny little nub, up to 6 months to a year to get a fully formed tree-like dendrite structure in your brain. But just know that it's possible and don't give up.
Amazing your knowledge about the about the brain and stuff like that.
Right. I know it's neurobiological. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So and I think it ties back to committing to yourself. It's not something that's happening overnight. Neither is it doesn't matter if it's about the self-worth, if it's about finding your purpose, about getting out of the dark night of the soul. It all starts with the commitment to yourself and saying, maybe I don't know yet how to get there or where there is, but
Yeah.
I commit to myself, and I say no matter how long it will take me, no matter how often I will fall back, I stay committed, because something calls me and I know that there's more for me and that I deserve more than I thought I did. Not in a narcissistic way, just in we're all worthy. We're all here to thrive. We're not here to diminish each other. We're here to help each other grow and inspire each other and lift each other higher. And so commit to yourself, because you don't only do it for yourself, you do it for all beings. And if you are ready to step into your greatness and go the path and commit, you're not only building your own heaven on earth, but you're helping the whole bring the vision alive, basically.
Yeah. I say the tide rises all boats, right? So as you rise, you raise others with you.
Exactly. And you
Yeah.
don't do anybody any good, any healthy people, if you keep yourself small or suffering.
Right. Hidden, tucked away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
we
It's
all, yeah.
such a beautiful thing. And I would say too, oftentimes people struggle with doubt, right? I'm not, how do I know that there's a better life for me? How do I know that
Yeah.
this path will work? How do I know? And so the brain is always looking to the past for evidence of the future. We understand that if the brain hasn't seen the evidence, it's going to tell you that it's probably not true. And so the disbelief. Remember, any negative thought is that resistance in the body that's
Mm-hmm.
preventing the flow. So the disbelief will keep you from seeing the evidence. So what you can do is there's two things. Is one, remain as king when you're asking a question. So if you look at the etymology of the word asking and separate it, you are as king. So that means you remain in authority,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't give your power away.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, I can't do this, this won't work for me, I tried this before, we can ask the question, how
Mm-hmm.
can I find the evidence that this will work for me? How can I make this happen? Right? So you leave the
Mm-hmm.
door open to the answers when you ask a question instead of creating a wall or a barrier between you and what you're trying to get to. When you make those definitive statements, I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
can't, I won't, it shouldn't,
Yeah.
right? Don't should all over yourself. And then and then finally I would say your body is really intelligent. You can tell in your body if something is right or wrong, right? And so tell yourself, I have no purpose, I have no worth. This is the life I'm destined to live. I have to stay here. I have to figure out how to deal. Exactly. You want to vomit, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, please don't. I don't even like speaking those words over us right now, right? So let's switch it, right? Quickly, Control Alt Delete. No, I am a beautiful, divine,
Mm-hmm.
powerful being made with purpose and intention. I am here to create heaven on earth, and there is nothing but me standing in my way. Therefore, I have every ounce of power I need within me to make this happen.
Mm.
And how does that feel?
Wow, powerful. Yeah, it's a
And right, exactly. You open up, your shoulders fall back, the weight of the world falls off of you. That's a
yeah.
full body yes, right? And
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
you can use that in any question in life. What should I do? Right? Try it on, see how it feels, and you will be guided.
Beautiful. A full body yes. Yeah, and I love that you brought it back to the empowerment. Like
Yes.
really realizing I am the one in power. It doesn't
Right.
serve me, it doesn't do me any good to give away my power. It just doesn't. No matter what happened to you, you
Yeah.
can get it back anytime. And this was so beautiful, but I just want to ask you, is there anything else you would like to end on, or would you like to leave that as your end statement because it was really, really powerful? Or is there anything else that's on your heart that you would like to share right now?
Just that you are loved. You are so, so deeply loved. That our worth and our value cannot be quantified. And we have all lived through many, many, many generations of deprivation, and that does not predict the future, and that there is a creative source of some kind that put all of us here, and I think we know that at a core cellular level, and that source loves us, and we will never be abandoned. And especially as we make the commitment to follow the guidance and step into the purpose and to love each other, that will only become more and more true and evident for you. So you're never alone. I think that's probably the biggest piece, is you are not alone. Reach out to Jolene, reach out to me. There's communities of people. You're never ever alone. And as you raise your vibration, as you clear the trauma and you make the commitment and you choose the right path, more people will be drawn to you. And so there is no reason to be alone. People are not bad. We're awesome. There's awesome people like us out here. So, remove that belief that people are scary and bad, and come take a hug because we're offering.
No. Beautiful. I
Yeah.
really like that. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, Rebecca. It was a pleasure for me talking with you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for suggesting this. I'm so happy to spend time with you, and
Mm.
I know that we will spend more time soon, and I will look forward to it.
I will. I look forward to it too, and I'm very happy to get on another interview on another topic. I have something in mind already.
Oh, beautiful. Let's put it on the calendar.
All right, perfect. Okay, thank you
Fantastic.
so much. Have a
Yes.
beautiful day.
Beautiful. You too. Take
Bye.
care.